Hari Om, everyone.
Hari Om.
Hari Om, Ma. Hari Om, Gita Ma. Hari Om, Raghuji.
Hari Om Jyoti ji.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om, everyone. Good. Happy to see everyone back. I hope we're refreshed after Swamiji's yajna last week and ready to do some more thinking again. So we'll get into it straight. So let's start with prayer. If everyone can just mute themselves, please. Oh. 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 ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम् सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम् हरिः ॐ रूपं दृश्यं लोचनं दृक् तद्दृश्यं दृक्तुमानसं दृश्याधिवृत्तयः साक्षी दृगेव न तु दृश्यते. So that was shloka 1 of Drśya Viveka. So I'll do a little recap as we've skipped 1 week. So in that first shloka, which I just chanted, that shloka was the capsule on which the next 4 shlokas elaborate. So shlokas 1 to 5 form one packet of knowledge. Within shlokas 1 to 5, Tvampada is discussed. Tvampada meaning in that Tat Tvamasi Mahavakya, Tat Tvamasi, that thou art, that thou word, Tvampada, you, meaning I, my identity with that supreme. That is what is being addressed in these 5 shlokas. It's being elaborated. And all the different aspects of Tvam, all the different aspects of me, and the different I's which I erroneously identify with, as well as the ultimate I, which is my real identity. All of them are elaborated in these 4 padas, means these 4 quarters of that first mantra. It's broken up in this way that what is given in that first mantra, mantra 2, 3, and 4, then elaborates 3 of the anatma identifications, the erroneous I that I identify as. Then in the 5th shloka, atma, the accurate I, is described. Now, what's the division between these? We'll see one terminology that's used in Advaita Vedanta, which is lakshyartha and vachyartha. These 3 anatma I's are vachyartha I, means it's the direct meaning of I. When I say I, what I usually directly refer to, as in my mind. Like I will say, I feel strong today. That's body. I feel a little bit emotional today. I feel happy today. That's mind. I feel, well, I'm very smart. I'm very intelligent. I'm good at these things. That's intellect. So these 3 anatma I's at the level of body, mind, and intellect, as well as the external I, which we connect with through mind. So possessions are an extended sense of I that I attach to. So all of these are addressed in these first three shlokas, the vachyartha aspect of I, the direct meaning that I tend to refer to. Then lakshyartha is given in the fifth shloka. Lakshyartha is the implied meaning. Means there are times when I will refer to I, especially in spirituality, or when I'm discussing Vedanta, and I say I am that eternal principle. I am infinite. I am supreme bliss. I am that unbroken, homogeneous, eternal entity. So obviously, when I say this, I don't mean I, this body. This body cannot be eternal. It dies at the end of this life. I'm not referring to mind or intellect. So it's an implied sense of I that I'm speaking of in these contexts. This is called lakshyartha, I. And in understanding Mahavakyas, we have to match the lakshyartha aspects of Tat, Bhagwan, Paramatma to the lakshyartha aspect of me, Atma, and match them together. That is where the aikyam, the oneness, comes in lakshyartha. Otherwise, we think, how can this physical body or mind be that eternal entity? It doesn't seem plausible. So this terms of lakshyartha and vachyartha helps us to distinguish in this way what's accurately meant in those mahavakyas. Now that we know the difference, we see that shloka 5 speaks of my lakshyartha I, meaning Atma itself. So this shloka gives lakshanas, the characteristics and the nature of Atma itself. So we are going to go now from an Atma topic into Atma topic in today's session. So we'll chant shloka 5. I'll do repeat first and then we'll do full. नोदेति नास्तमेत्येषा नोदेति नास्तमेत्येषा न वृद्धिं याति न क्षयं न वृद्धिं याति न क्षयं स्वयं विभात्यथान्यानि स्वयं विभात्यथान्यानि भासयेत् साधनं विना भासयेत् साधनं विना नोदेति नास्तमेत्येषा न वृद्धिं याति न क्षयं स्वयं विभात्यतान्यानि भासयेत् साधनं विना. So this shloka says the nature of Atma is what? Na udeti, na astameti. It has na udeti, no rise, na astameti, no set, means no birth, no death, na vriddhi, no growth, na kshaya, no decay. So Atma is that which has no rise, no fall, no birth, no death, no growth, no decay, because it is that one homogeneous entity that does not undergo the multiple changes that all other equipments are seen to undergo. It is Swayam Vibhati, Atha, so Swayam Vibhati, self-luminous, Atha Anyani Bhaset, because it itself is luminous, from knowing itself, all else becomes known. Means I cannot know anything else unless I, that ultimate I entity, is there to enliven the knowing process. And therefore, only from that I, consciousness, ability to know everything else becomes known. So, Svayam Vibhati, Atha Anyatha Vibhati. All others become known from that. And Bhasayat Sadhanam Vina. It itself, Sadhanam Vina, without any other aid, knows itself. So that is that self-luminous aspect that it itself knows itself by itself. There's a Mandukya Karika that talks about that. Ajena ajam vibudhyate. That Brahman knows Brahman by Brahman. No other equipment is required for knowing. So this is that vichara that we did before. Can mind know Brahman? Can intellect know Brahman? At what level do I come to know myself? So this shloka talks about that aspect. Being svayam vibhati, then sadhanam vina bhaset. Because it is self-luminous, it requires nothing else to know itself. Just like the sun requires no other light to shine on it to say, this is the sun, can you see it? It illumines itself. So these are the aspects of Atma given, the nature of Atma is given in this shloka. Now what we'll do is we'll explore, we may not be able to explore the full shloka, but I'll extract certain aspects of the shloka that will make for nice vichara, nice points of discussion and reflection. So this first line of this shloka It's very nice for reflection. It talks about the nature of Atma as na udeti, na astameti, na vridhi, na kshayam. So Atma is that which has no rise, na udeti, no birth. So means it is eternally existent. There's no time when it was not there. We say no praga bhava. It's also no astam eti, no death, which means it's immortal. There's no time when it won't be there. No pradhamsa bhava is the term used in Vedanta. So these two concepts of no rise and fall, no creation or dissolution, no birth, no death, it's reminiscent of, it means reference we can pull from Amrita Bindu Upanishad, where the mantra there says, Nanirodho na cha utpatti, na baddho na cha sadhaka, na mumukshur na vai muktaha, ityesha paramarthata. It says, Brahman is that which is Nanirodho na cha utpatti. It has no nirodha, it has no dissolution and no utpatti, no creation either. Means no birth, no death. Same concept. Na udeti, na astameti. Now, what does this mean for us? If Brahman has no rise and fall, no birth, no death, but I have rise and fall, I have birth and death, so does the creation, right? Then it means neither at the level of myself nor at the level of this world did Brahman ever become any of this. This thought would logically follow. Because Brahman, it's said in this shloka, has no rise, no set, no birth, no death. But I, as this person, has birth and death. And the world has rise and fall, creation and dissolution. Therefore, this shloka is implying, if I'm thinking, this shloka is implying that none of this is Brahman. Who is getting this thought also? Are you following? Okay, good. I see some people are shaking heads. It means this shloka is implying or either that none of this is Brahman or that none of this, including me, came out of Brahman. Because I have rise and fall, Brahman doesn't. So then did I not come out of that Brahman? So I want us to think along these lines. Now, this is where questions are going to start coming out. If I am here, but yet Brahman has no rise and fall to produce something like me, then how did I come about? So these are questions that should start coming. Where did I come from then? What is that cause-effect relationship? I know that I had to come out of Brahman, right? Everything that I know tells me Bhagwan is what brought me forth. So then what is that cause-effect relationship then between Brahman and myself? Or Brahman and this creation? And how is it possible if this shloka, which has its root in Shruti Mata, in Vedas itself, is saying something that seems contradictory to everything I know? So we can analyze this from different aspects. We can use different ways. So we'll use Sat aspects to look at existence aspect. It means that Brahman, which is absolute existence, if it doesn't have rise and fall, but I have birth and death, then that existence of Brahman is not the existence that brought me then. So it means either me and this world, etc. Either I exist or I don't exist. Only one out of two options are there. And either Brahman exists or doesn't exist. And how does this relationship then come about? Means among the components of these two options, what are the possible permutations and combinations that can combine them to create some sort of cause-effect relationship by which I can maybe come to understand how it's possible for me and this world to have arisen. So using this Sat aspect, we can look at it in four ways. So it's either, so let me share this PowerPoint just to make it a little bit easier. This topic is a little bit complex, so just bear with me. Okay, can everyone see my screen? Okay, hold on, I can't see you all. Thank you. Let me try that again. Okay, good. So if we have to look at it, everyone is able to see the screen, okay? Yeah, okay. So if we have to look at it from existence aspect to figure out what is this cause-effect relationship between myself and Brahman, which seems to be contradicted in this shloka, because this shloka is implying either I'm non-existent, because apparently I can't come out of Brahman if Brahman has no rise and fall, or either Brahman is some different kind of nature where from some existence aspect of Brahman, some non-existent me can come. So this is what we have to understand. What is this relationship itself? So like I said, from the permutations and combinations, it can only be four things. Either Brahman exists, and from an existent Brahman arose an existent me and world. So this probably seems the most plausible thing to all of us if we were to think. The other option then is that from an existent Brahman came a non-existent me, meaning I don't really exist in the way that I think I do. So this, for Vedantic thinkers, they may think maybe this can also make sense to some extent. When we look at Lakshyartha and Vachyartha, as I just explained, direct meaning and implied meaning, maybe there could be some truth to the second one. The third option is a non-existent Brahman then. So from non-existent Brahman, can that produce an existent me and world? Or the four, I see Gita Ma shaking her head already. No, not possible. I can't let Gita Ma answer these questions. She'll spoil the whole thing. Okay, she knows the answer already. And from the final one, from a non-existent Brahman, can a non-existent me then arise? This is the most interesting one because this last one implies that if it's non-existent Brahman and there's non-existent me, then it means nothing is there. It means nothing was ever there, and from nothing, nothing is coming. So it throws us all into a state of negation. Now, the interesting point about this, nothing coming from nothing sounds absolutely absurd, right? But the Buddhists actually propagate this line of thinking. And when you see their Siddhanta and you see how strong, how robustly they describe the method of analyzing the soul, you will also become convinced there's nothing. This whole thing is a void, actually. Because when you begin to look at that state of our Brahmatva, like in meditation, when you go deep in meditation and everything falls away, what's there? It's almost like a void. And this is what they say, that in the end, when everything disappears, what does it disappear into? Nothingness. And there's just a void. Now they say void, that it disappears all into nothing. We say it disappears all into everything, and Brahman is that everything altogether. They say it's nothing. They say it disappears into zero. But we say that nothingness is actually a feeling of absolute completeness. So they say shunya, we say purnam in this way, but it is an all-consuming state in which everything has dissolved. Everything is in that unmanifest, beyond unmanifest form. So you can sort of understand how it could feel like a void. So in this way, this is why we always say, on the point of Siddhanta, we stand apart. But in sadhana, many of their techniques, like those Yogachara Mata, there are four branches of Buddhism. Yogachara Mata and Shunyavada, particularly, those two, they do such good methods of meditation where they can negate the mind so well because their absolute is nothingness. So when it comes to negating the mind, they're very good at it. So sometimes we can utilize even these methods for sadhana to help us negate the mind. But on Siddhanta, on the principle, we stand apart. But as we observe these ways of thinking, then these four methods, these four approaches that we just saw, some of them we can see that it's not absolutely absurd, but where the strength of this sort of thinking comes from. Otherwise, you'll say, Jyotiji, what are you talking about? A non-existent Brahman and a non-existent you? What nonsense. So I'm promising you there's a root for this. That's why I'm giving all of this Darshanika point of views from Buddhism and all that. It's not absolute nonsense. It's actually very profound thoughts that we're going to go through today. So what we're going to do from here is we are going to discuss these four options that were given in that slide. We're going to try to figure out what's our cause-effect relationship. How is it that we evolved out of that Brahman? And the reason for which I'm doing this is when we begin to analyze out, then we'll begin to mithyatva certain aspects of our anatma self as we go through this. The entire purpose of this process is for us to begin negating our anatma parts. So this vichara is going to help us in that line of thinking. So I'll show you how. So we have four propositions here. From an existent Brahman arose an existent me and world. or from an existent Brahman arose a non-existent me and world. Next, from a non-existent Brahman arose an existent me, and from a non-existent Brahman, an existent me. So you all are going to analyze and tell me why each one of these is plausible or not plausible. So we have to put on our thinking caps now. One by one, we'll go through each, and there's only 4 options. So at the end of this, we'll start working from the 4th one backward. So there's a reason why I'll do it this way. And we're going to refute at least 3 out of these 4 to prove which one is the correct cause-effect relationship. Or refute all 4 and give your own postulation on what is the correct cause-effect relationship. Okay? So let's start from the first one. Let me just share it again so you can see what the options are. So we'll start from this last one, go backward, because as we saw Gita Amma shaking her head, so these are the easier ones to immediately we can negate these. So these are the easier ones to refute. So let's start from here. So from a non-existent Brahman came a non-existent me or world. Means this is called from asat karanam came asat karyam. Non-existent cause arose a non-existent effect. Is this possible or not? So does anyone want to volunteer to answer? Okay, so Manasi Amma is giving a thumbs down. Okay, Amma, tell us, why do you think? So just give any reasoning. We're postulating.
From nothing came nothing. This doesn't seem like it. If you look in your universe, everything we know, there is no example of that. Like nothing coming out of nothing. Even Big Bang, was a bang. But so it doesn't make any sense to me. Nothing coming out of nothing. Yeah.
Excellent. Good. And that's actually good reasoning. See, in the process of analyzing something out, the Nyayikas gave a certain method. So you pratigna is your main statement. To support that statement, you have to give a drishtanta, an example, for your proof to be robust. And as Manasi Amma pointed out, there's no example to support this. So then your proof will be lacking in one of the main components. There are 4 or 5 main components. You can use either 4 or 5 in proving something. And if one of those components is lacking, your proof is not robust. So as Amma pointed out, if there's no drishtanta, no example that can be drawn, then it points more to the fact that this thing is not plausible. The classic example, or one of the examples we can use for this to show its absurdity is kapushpa. Kapushpa means a sky flower. So if I say, last night I went to bed and I dreamt that there were sky flowers, and I picked so many beautiful sky flowers. And when I woke up this morning, I made a mala, like Amma's beautiful mala she made for Swamiji. Then today, I wanted to show you all. Do you all like my mala? What do you think? Anyone likes my mala? Raise their hand. Who thinks I'm crazy right now? Raise your hand. So if I'm there postulating to you that you see something that doesn't exist, we'll all think we're crazy. So in other words, the hetu, which is the final point that's given, the reasoning behind the refutation of this proof is just absolute absurdity. It's not possible for nothing to come from nothing. So we can negate that first one. Now the second one, let's look at. What was the second one? From a non-existent Brahman came an existent me. This one is a little bit more tricky, but let's see who will venture into this. Anyone wants to volunteer? Is it possible or not possible from a non-existent entity for an existent effect to come? So let's see. This one is a little bit more difficult. I think I'll give Gita Amma this one because this one is a little more hard. Amma, any ideas?
From non-existent, existence cannot come.
Why or why not?
You have to have something to bring something out of that. When you don't have anything, how can you bring it out? Just like a magician is trying to bring it out.
Correct. So that's the refutation of this, that something cannot come out of nothing. That logical stream of thinking is negated if we imply that something comes out of nothing. So that's Sangarama is that answer. No more explanation required. Okay, so let's go to the more plausible. I see these last two were based on non-existent Brahman bringing something forth. So as Vedantins, we kind of have already been brainwashed into knowing anything that says non-existent Brahman is wrong. So we refute those. So now we're going to the other two of existent Brahman. Someone Someone is commenting?
I have a question, Jyoti.
Sure, please. Oh, so there's two people, Vijay uncle and then, okay, so Sumati Amma, you go first, then Vijay uncle.
So the non-believers would say evolution is what created everything in this world, right? From the single-celled organisms through to humans, that
Correct.
evolution is what caused it. Of course, we
Darwinian
don't know
evolution.
the first step before that first celled organism, right? There's always something that created something else. So that theory, I agree, but non-believers would say, that doesn't prove that there is a God or there is a Brahman, right? So how do you explain that?
Well, to begin with, this first proves that something cannot come out of nothing, which means something must be there out of which all of this evolved. Our aim, actually, the absolute, not even absolute, at the just below absolute level of Vedanta, we're not even trying to prove that God exists, Vedantins don't even have to accept that God exists. We just have to accept that. Means the line of thinking of Vedanta shows us that something can only come out of something, and therefore there is some entity by which everything evolves out. That's why they see Vedantins are not even against atheists. There's a very thin line between Vedantins and atheists because it doesn't have to be a God. It just has to be something capable of producing everything. But anything that's capable of producing everything must have. So in Vedanta, there's two concepts of Upadana Karana and Nimitta Karana. Karana means cause. Cause must have two aspects to it. Upadana and Nimitta. Upadana means material cause, and Nimitta Karana means the efficient cause or the intelligent cause behind something. And even someone with a non-spiritual but scientific mind will have to agree that this entire cosmos has a certain inherent order about it, that things do not transcend their dharma, means their nature is not transcended. The eye will only ever see, it will never smell. The sun will shine, fire will always be hot, it will never be cold. So nature itself has a certain order. A plant will only produce its own fruit. It won't produce another fruit. And the genetic coding within that plant, that I think I gave this example before, that will cause soil and dirt and manure to be transformed into a succulent fruit is absolutely mind-blowing. How can that happen? So it means there is the nimitta karana, the intelligent cause, or the the intelligent cause, the efficient cause of this universe must be something very, very intelligent in order to maintain this sort of intelligent functioning of the universe. So just from the universe and its functioning itself, we can infer that one, it's not a random universe just come about. Otherwise, random things would be constantly happening. And there's too much inherent order in the genetics of everything that happens around us, from people to plants to nature, to think that everything just came randomly. We have to admit that there's some intelligence in the creation itself. And as Vedantins, we believe that intelligence within the creation itself is God. It is the ultimate. Because what is Brahman? Satchit Ananda. It's Chit, it's consciousness, knowledge aspect. So as long as there's that inherent intelligence within the creation, that's what we call Brahman. So you don't have to believe in God. Once you believe that the creation is intelligent, you're already in our sampradaya, in our line of thinking. So in that way, you can explain to them very easily. Because it's pratyaksha pramana. Easily they can see the intelligence of the creation. That itself is our God. So that's one way we can use for proving.
Okay.
Yeah. Vijay, uncle, what was your question?
I'm trying to understand, right? There is matter cannot be created or cannot be destroyed. That is the latest scientific way of thinking. So something has to come from something. Ice comes from water, and things like that. So we can argue against the theory what is the non-existence is not creating existence thing. But in the same way, we are talking about a Big Bang theory, or this world is created by Omkar, started with Om. And what is before Om, nobody knows. So the thing is, that created, Om created off, what the sound came from, nobody knows. But it is created something. So somehow, I don't know, it is Omkar, I cannot say that it is nothing. It is something, but cannot be quantifiable there. So that's where the problem comes, is non-existent. is the whole world is, if you go with the Brahma created things, with one Brahma, he created more in 7 days or whatever, that kind of a thing. Or if you go to Christianity, the same thing, they have got their own way of keep growing. So there is a something maybe there at the very early stages in the beginning, whatever you call beginning, something gets created, but it's very hard to say it's all got created from nothing. But the thing is hard to explain what is that the
So
initial
what is the something? Yeah, correct. And the reason why we have this doubt is because we've all grown up in a scientific society, and we've all been told it's intelligent to think scientifically. So that's why that doubt comes in our mind. If you were to think on a spiritual level and take it one step beyond, it becomes a bit clearer. So I'll explain how. Science is based on pratyaksha pramana. In Vedanta, we have 6 forms of pramana. Science is based only in one, pratyaksha, which is what is seen. That's why science only deals in 4 elements. We have 5 elements because they don't ascribe to akasha, which is beyond their scope. Spirituality tells you there's something beyond the physical realm. There's subtle and there's causal also. Science has now begun to tip into possible subtle, where they're talking about antimatter and so on, right? Where they're looking for that unified theory, and they're trying to, through that Hadron Collider, prove the existence of something by the absence of something else. So we're seeing science more trying to show, trying to seek after Maya, so to speak. Instead of trying to prove things directly, they're trying to prove indirectly, which is what we say Brahman cannot be known, means, Maya cannot be known directly. Maya is known indirectly through its effects. So in that way, science is now beginning to evolve to that point. But where we have grown up in a scientific society, we always look for proofs within this realm. And like you said, within this realm, it can only go up to a certain point, and beyond that, we don't know what came before. And it's because Vedanta teaches us there's 3 ontological planes of existence, not one. This is transactional realm is called Vyavaharika Satta. But there are 2 other sattas also. There's Pratibhasika Satta and Paramarthika Satta also. Within this Satta, we can only take it back to Om, or Big Bang. That's transactional, that's Vyavaharika. The source of this Vyavaharika Satta is Paramarthika Satta. So it goes into an entirely different ontological plane of existence, into which science cannot tap into, because the science is based on proof from its instruments of measurement. And the instruments of measurements are made of Vyavaharic materials. So it cannot tap into Paramartha. So therefore, there's no way science will ever prove where the actual cause is coming from, because it can only take them up to that point of pratyaksha pramana, proof ability within the senses and this realm of perception, where this actually has its root in that. So understand that's the next step before that. Yeah? Okay, so I hope that answers your question. Okay, so next, can we go on to the next section now? Yeah, it's okay. We still have lots of time. So we refuted that the first 2. So let's share again. Share screen. So we've refuted this first aspect, non-existent Brahman giving rise to anything. So now we go into the realm of actual discussion for us, which is existent Brahman. So we all know Brahman exists, but then what's coming out of that? Means, is it existent me or non-existent me? Am I Sat, existence, or is the me that I think I am, is there a certain non-existent aspect to me as well as existent aspect? So this is where we need to discover further now. So we moved backward this way, 4, 3. So now number 2 we have to look at. So from existent Brahman came non-existent me. From an existent cause came a non-existent effect. So what this is implying is Brahman is, but I am not. So this is the question now. Who wants to postulate on this one? Brahman is, but I am not. How is it possible, or is it not possible?
So I have a follow-up question, Jyotiji,
Sure,
just to
sure.
clarify the question.
Mm.
When we say non-existent me, are we talking about the living world, or because Atman is considered to be eternal in a sense? So, I mean, both of them, isn't it like, I mean, since we're talking about science and spirituality, isn't it like the Heisenberg principle of the Schrodinger's cat? It is the present yet not present kind of a thing. I mean, Yeah. So
I'm trying to get your question clear. Just make your question in one line because I didn't follow all of it.
So, do we have to prove that there is non-existent me not happening from existent Brahman? Because they both are true.
Good. So this is where the thinking is supposed to. Very correct. Okay, so now I understand your Schrodinger's kata reference. Yeah, so it makes sense. Means both can be true at the same time. And why is that? So that is what we're going to discover now. That's actually the crux of where we're leading to Shastri. So your question will be answered by the end of the class. I can't spoil it yet. Let's go through the sequence of thinking because yours is actually the actual answer at the end. So let's go through phase 3 first. So I'll show you how we get there. So someone now postulate, or Shastriji wants to postulate, from existent cause, non-existent effect. Is Brahman is, but I am not. Is it possible? Now, okay, so before Manasi Amma answers, we'll let Rachna Amma answer because Manasi Amma got to answer already. So Rachna Amma, you go first.
So, Jyotiji, I'm going to take it back to science because I think that's how my mind thinks. But if you were to take kinetic energy as Brahman, then that kinetic energy would either stay as that energy, then it would stay in that unmanifest form, or would switch to kinetic energy. So if it switched to kinetic energy, then it would be as if it switched to some sort of a manifest form, right? So that manifest form would be changing depending on what it is, but the energy didn't change. So I think that you can say that there would be a changing component, but what's there kind of as the absolute, that stays. You can't create or destroy that.
So then what's your proof? Is it that from an existent cause, then another existent effect is coming?
Means if you have that cause can either stay in that same format of kinetic energy, or that cause would change to a different format, but you can see it in another format, but which would change. So it would change in that sense, right? Like there is the ability for it to change if it comes out from a potential energy to a kinetic energy. There's the ability to see a change.
Okay, so what you're saying is from an existent cause, there's going to be an effect that exists, but in a different form.
Yes.
Okay, so this is where we have to be clear on existence word now. So this is good. So this is what I was going to define before. So it'll help give a little more clarity. See, when we use the word existence, Shastra defines existence as Trikala pi tishtati iti sat. Sat, or existence, is that which remains the same through the 3 periods of time. Sat is Deshakala vastu aparichinnatvam satyatvam. Sat is that which is unlimited, not limited by Desha, Kala, and Vastu, place, time, and circumstances. So if we say from a Sat cause, from Brahman, which is Sat, absolute existence, unchanging, came an Asat effect, a non-existent effect, so to speak. We're not talking about an effect that has changed form from potential to kinetic. We're saying that that potential has now disappeared because it's Asat, it's non-existent. Yeah? Your answer is actually linked to Shastriji's question, which we're coming to also. It's a change of form, so to speak, from potential to kinetics. My God, you guys just want to reach the end. We have to go through the other 2 steps first. Okay, so somebody refute this line for me now. From an existent cause, a non-existent effect. See, Mama, let's hear your ideas. We'd have to push this process along.
So if something is existence, then existence come out of existence, in the sense that non-existence cannot come out of something that exists.
Good. So usually an example is what can prove things like this to us. So use an example in life of something that's non-existent. Can it come out of something that exists?
So the one example I was thinking is a barren woman's son.
Ah, you got it.
Right.
That's the example I had to give. Okay, good. You give it then because I don't need to give it now. Got it.
So a barren, if a woman is barren, a son cannot exist from the barren woman, because there's no way for a child to exist.
Correct. That's typical example that's used for this one. That if there's a son, she's no longer a barren woman.
Right.
She's a fertile woman. So therefore, the son of a barren woman is a non-existent entity. If she Right. So if there is a son, then she cannot be the son. There cannot be the son of a barren woman. But if there is no son, then still there cannot be the son of a barren woman because there's no son. So in either circumstance, whether there's a son or not a son, it's still not the son of a barren woman. So in either circumstance, I hope you all were able to follow that. Yeah. So in either circumstance, the son of a barren woman is a non-existent identity. Women do exist. There may be some barren women, but in under no biological circumstances is it possible for a barren woman to produce a son. Therefore, from an aspect that can exist, like a barren woman, for her to produce a non-existent aspect, a son of a barren woman, it becomes absolutely impossible. So in this way, through examples, it can be easier to show how this proof of a non-existent effect from an existent cause becomes impossible. So perfect example, Amma. So now we've gone through that third one. So just follow the process of thinking now. The fourth and final option was from an existent cause came an existent effect. So who thinks this is possible or the most plausible one? Anyone else? Only Nita Amma, Sima Amma, Vikram Uncle. Okay, good. So good. We have some people believing in this one. So someone postulate now. So this one seems a little bit more plausible also. And tell me how from an existent cause can an existent effect come? This should be easy. Nita Amma, let's hear your ideas.
I think there are several examples. I can see what, in our fifth grade class, we teach of, something we cannot see. That doesn't mean it does not exist. Oh.
Okay.
So for example, like, microwave, we cannot see with our eyes, but we know that it produces something, it cooks our food. It's just, we have been talking the different form of the energy, so it's there, I think.
Good. So on a transactional level, that's not bad. So from an existent cause, an existent effect can come. So that's correct. But here's another step of thinking. If it is an existent cause, an existent effect, now we're looking at the absolute definition of existence as Brahman, as pure Satchit Ananda. If it already exists as a cause in that form, then the effect would have to be that same form, right, Nitama? Satchitananda itself. Then if Brahman is becoming Atma, Satchitananda is becoming Satchitananda, is the cause really becoming an effect, or is it the cause here and just the cause again here? Is it changing at all? No, it's not changing. And if it's not changing, then is a cause producing an effect? Or is it just a cause retransferring a cause in its same causal form? If you look at it from that aspect, there's no cause-effect relationship actually. If the cause already exists in that form, then where's the need for it to produce an effect to exist in the same form? When a cause produces an effect, it undergoes a change. That's a cause-effect relationship. So a tree becomes a desk. Cause-effect. It has to change form to become something else. An effect is something produced as a result of something else. So it has to undergo some kind of change. Brahman becoming Atma is no change. So therefore it loses the status of a cause-effect relationship. And this comes to the ultimate proof that actually there is no existent cause producing an existent effect. Because if Brahman is becoming Brahman, it's cause becoming cause, and therefore Brahman is beyond cause-effect relationship. And this is why we say Brahman is Karya Karana Vilakshana. So the end of all of this proof is that all four are wrong, and all four can be refuted, which will now take us to Shastriji's point. But before we go to that, there's another aspect I'll bring out in this to further prove that even this fourth one, which we all agreed was the most plausible one, many people put up their hand, from existent cause came an existent effect. This is the one that we have to really pound into our minds, because this is the fault we all have in our belief, that from existent Brahman came so hold on, Vijay Uncle, I'll take your question just now. From existent Brahman came existent me. And I put Satyatva Buddhi in me as existing. I have to be able to divide out which aspect of me is absolute Sat and therefore never underwent any change. Therefore, it's not an effect. As Atma, I'm not an effect. I am that same cause. But the part that did undergo a change was the BMI that was produced, right? But that did not come out of as an effect of this cause. Because if existent cause is producing existent effect, then it implies this BMI's existence also. But what is the definition of existence? That which is unchanged through any period of time. And BMI constantly changes, this body, mind, and intellect. Therefore, this BMI is not a Sat effect. So this BMI is not a Sat effect, but it's not an Asat effect either. It means it's not completely non-existent. I can still see it, right? It's there. It's transactable. So it's not non-existent, like the son of a barren woman is absolutely non-existent. You can't see him. He doesn't exist at all. Similarly, this is not Sat either because it's not absolute existence. This body won't exist forever. So what is the relationship? What is this body if it's neither Sat nor Asat? Any answers? Any postulations? So this is what takes us to the next level. That what this body, mind, intellect is called Sat Asat Bhyam Anirvachaniya. It's neither Sat nor Asat. It's Mithya. That's the relation that we're actually looking for here, which is what Shastriji was alluding to. It doesn't have to be either. It's like Schrodinger's cat. It's either or neither. It's something else, actually. It's something out of this picture, actually, if you have to look at what it is. So what is Mithya? Mithya, the English word, best word used for it, it's an illusion. This is why we say Maya is an illusion. Something that's not there is absolutely not there. Something that is there is absolutely there. I can see it. What about something that you see, but it's not there? What would you call that? Neither Sat nor Asat. It's an illusion, like a hallucination. I can see it. I can transact with my hallucination even. But it's actually not there. It appears to be, but it is not. This is what Tulsidas calls in Ramayana. Sant Tulsidas says, Yama sa Maya. Yama sa Maya. That which appears to be, but it is not. This is Maya. Maya is what brings forth Mithya components. That cause-effect relationship between Brahman and me is actually through Maya producing a Mithya effect that appears to be but is not. So the process of going through these 4 steps of negation is actually, so let me see, where did I want to share this point? Right. So these 4 steps that we went through, it was not just an exercise in madness. This is actually a logical proof that is used by Nyayikas. It's called Chaturkoti Nishedha, the 4-fold negation. And what this Chaturkoti Nisheda is actually, it's called just as Chaturkoti. It's a 4-cornered system of argumentation that involves the systematic examination of each of the 4 possibilities of a proposition. From this, that, from this, not that, from the other thing, that, from the other thing, not that. So it uses the 4 components, it systematically analyzes all 4 possibilities of the proposition. And the product, like we've seen here, has been to negate through logical intellection and force us to soar past our mental mindset and our previous erroneous notions or previous preconceived notions. Soar past those into the acceptance or the consideration, at least, of the fact that the real answer to these questions lies in a realm beyond the precincts of our typical cause-effect relationships that we have been brainwashed into accepting that these are the only possibilities in life. Now we have to enter into a whole different realm of possibility, of mithya. What exactly is an illusion? So that's what all of these proofs are bringing us to, the concept of mithya and understanding that, because sat and asat are much easier. Because our BMI is mithya, it appears to be, but it is not. That is why it's so difficult for us to negate it. And that's why we're stuck in this process doing so much mananam, but yet unable to own up the fact that I'm not this. Because I can see it, I can transact with it. It's not a barren woman's son that I know definitely is not there, doesn't exist. This is something I can see and transact with. How can it not be? Just like how someone who's undergoing a hallucination can't believe that the other person can't see this, this thing standing in front of me. That's what makes our negation of this thing so hard. So for this, we have to understand what illusion really means. So, oh my, time has gone by fast. So I just want to share. So there's a short video I want to give. So we'll just look at a few minutes of it. I won't show the full thing. But this person's first time I came across him, but he has very effectively described what that illusion, that mithyatva really means, according to Advaita Vedanta. So we'll look at this, and then Shastriji will comment, since this was his what he was alluding to. So just comment on interesting parts of what you were able to extract from this video. So let me share screen. Everyone can see the screen okay? Yeah.
Question. The ultimate spiritual, all spiritual truth.
Can't hear.
What is the nature?
Oh, sorry, I forgot to include the audio on the screen share. Okay, let me try that again. Okay, good.
Well, the question that the ultimate question that all spiritual traditions ask in one way or another is, what is the nature of that reality? What is it that is real about my experience? Thought tells us it's made out of thought. Really, conventional thought gives us two options. Conventional thought tells us either matter is the ultimate reality of experience and mind is a byproduct of matter, or thought tells us mind is the ultimate reality of experience and matter is a byproduct of mind. Those are the two options that conventional thought gives us, and we become either realists or idealists depending on which of the two options we prefer. So the spiritual teaching gives us, well, the true non-dual spiritual teaching gives us a third option. It says that the reality of experience is not made either of matter or of mind. It is made out of stuff called consciousness, of which mind and matter, or they really should be written the same word because they always come together. Mind, matter, all one word, is a byproduct. So now to go back to the phrase, the world is an illusion. The world made out of stuff called matter is an illusion. The world made out of stuff called mind, even, is an illusion. But the world made out of stuff called consciousness is real. In other words, consciousness is the reality, the substance, the stuff out of which all experience is made.
I buy that ticket, but I still don't understand what's happening when the illusions are running around doing things. I don't understand what's happening, with the objects. Seemingly, like if I'm in a restaurant and I see the movie, that you talk about, I can't just say to myself, it's an illusion, Stanley. Go back to eat and go out. But what's happening?
We've already discussed. It's not an illusion. Your experience in the restaurant is real. Everything you experience is real. But you understand that the stuff that you are experiencing, that is all these people eating their dinner, although they appear to be bodies made out of matter, discussing ideas that are made out of mind, although that's how they appear to be, the deeper reality of what they really are is consciousness. Now that doesn't make the appearance, that realization doesn't make the appearance disappear. Just like when you're watching a movie and it suddenly dawns on you that all you're seeing is a screen, you're not seeing a landscape, you're seeing an empty screen. That realization doesn't bring the movie to an end, but it does change the way you relate to the movie. Likewise, you're in the restaurant. Conventional thought would have you believe that all these people are independent objects made out of matter and they're all discussing ideas made out of mind. But this deeper understanding enables you to realize that they are ultimately made out of the stuff that you are. Pure consciousness. Now that has a profound effect on the way that you relate to the situation, this deeper understanding. It doesn't mean to say that you can no longer think in terms of mind and matter. It no longer prevents you from drinking a glass of water if you're thirsty, or getting up and paying your bill and walking to your car when your meal is finished. For all those activities, the model of matter, or the model of mind plus matter, works perfectly well. So you use that model in response to the relative situation, but your deeper understanding is that the ultimate reality of this experience is pure consciousness, which is yourself. And that deeper understanding changes profoundly the way you relate to the appearances.
Okay, so that much I'll share. But I hope this gives a better idea of mithya, what that illusion aspect actually is. So Shastriji, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are matter should not matter.
Very good. Now tell us more.
Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult to conceptualize, but he's trying to, it, I mean, I've never heard of him. I mean, Anuji actually said that she has been hearing about him. I'll try to, hear more about him. But he's trying to, exemplify the classic explanation about Sachidananda and Maya, I guess. He's saying the consciousness is reality and the Maya is all illusion. And he has taken the case of the movie, I mean, how we see a movie or how we behave in our dream state, or if anybody has seen Truman Show, that's actually a classic movie in which he believes everything is true, but it's actually somebody else controls the whole thing until he realizes it at the end. So, and this is something to do with our 13th chapter in Bhagavad Gita also, I guess, the Kshetra and the Kshetrajna, the known versus the knower. So I think I think he sums it up really well, all I can say.
So Alok Anu Amma says he's from Bhagwan Ramana Sampradaya. So I've never heard of him, but I just came across his video looking for videos and I found he explained it nicely. There's more of the video, which we'll watch next week, some other concepts that he goes into. But what I liked about his explanation there is also how he brought the example of when you're watching a movie, you realize it's just a screen, not a whole landscape you're seeing before you. All of a sudden, the movie sort of loses a bit of its awe. But what happens is this is how mithya works. When we understand how Maya has projected this universe, this body, mind, and intellect of me and everyone around me, all matter and minds, they're all mithya. I see the screen, no longer the landscape anymore. And that means no matter how emotional that movie is, it doesn't affect me anymore. It means no matter how many transitions of mind and matter is happening around me, this play, this movie can't affect me anymore. And this is the essence of what we're learning from this Chatushkoti Nishedha. That if it's not absolute Sat, but it's Mithya, then why am I giving absolute reality to it? Why am I allowing this movie to control my life so much? It's not Sat. We've proven that through Chatushkoti Nishedha. What it is Mithya. It's something that's appearing to be real, just like that movie. But when I understand the illusion of it, like he said, it doesn't make the movie stop. Life will go on, but life ceases to have the power to control me anymore. And I can step back and watch all these people around me, like he said, in that restaurant, and see consciousness. But it doesn't stop me from transacting and finishing my meal and leaving. As it is reminiscent of how Jivan Muktas live. They will transact, but they live at a level where nothing can affect us. And the reason why I gave this video was because in understanding that BMI component and where it actually arises from, it's mithyatva, understanding the illusion of it, if we can begin to treat that BMI like the hallucination that it is, while appearing to be, it's actually not there. That's what's going to give us dukkha nivritti and sukha prapti, which is what the ultimate aim is. That's what's going to remove the sorrows from my life, because this BMI will stop being such a strong force that can bring sorrow. So that was my main point in showing that video. So I hope it was able to bring that idea across also through the movie example that he gave. How this knowledge can free us from sorrow while we continue to transact. It also explains how the world continues on anyway. So that much I'll share for today. Any other questions or observations anyone else wanted to give before we close?
I like the example that Swami Prakashanandaji had given about the gunas interacting with the gunas. Talked about the light of the sun, the white light coming, and that being rajasic, and bouncing off of a red flower, which then produces the red light, which is the flower is tamasic sitting there, and the light bounces off. So the way he went through each of the gunas that were working on that aspect, and then each of the gunas that were working on the individual aspect, to show that it's gunas interacting with gunas. That really brought that concept home to me.
And that was a beautiful quotation. That chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Shri Krishna actually says the gunas are interacting with the gunas. Anatma is interacting with anatma. Atma has nothing to do with it. So it shows that ability to stand back when we can see the mithyatva of what's happening around us. And again, that's what gives us dukkha nivritti.
So, Jyotiji,
Yes, Melanoma.
yeah. So what I see is that I myself am watching the screen with myself and everyone else there. But I have to realize which self I am.
That's the key.
I need to step out of the screen.
Correct. That's
because
the
I myself
key
am watching myself with everyone else.
So that was the key to this Chaturkoti Nishedha also. Separate out which one of the eyes, which are sat, which are asat, and which are mithya, so I can negate. Very correct. Yeah. Good. Okay, so I think we can close. Yeah, so we can close now. More interesting thoughts will be coming next week. We'll continue this topic. Oh. Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Hari Om, everyone.
Hari Om.
I just sent one message. I'm trying to read.
Hari Om. Thank you.
Okay, so I see there's some questions in the chat, so I'll address these next week. Don't worry. Hari Om, everyone.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om, Jyoti ji. Thank you.
Hari Om, Mama. How are you?
Hari Om. It's very, very, very interesting, and how to put it into practice is where my difficulty is.
Don't worry, Amma. That's all of our difficulties. We're working on it. We'll work together.
Yes, yes.
Hari Om, Jyoti ji, thank you so much.
Hari Om, Shastri ji. Let me copy these questions from the chat. Hari Om, everyone.
Hari Om.
Jyoti, you should be able to hit the 3 dots and hit save right after the chat.